So there's one thing that's actually been brought up to my attention lately, and it was actually a good enough point that I felt I needed to make a video out of this. There's a glaring problem that I see most players facing in PvP, and if handled incorrectly, causes most of the matches that they end up playing in to be lost. In fact, it is so common that in most of my games, as I'm sure with many others, you'll probably experience the same situation 2 or even 3 times a game. Now, I just want to ask, can anyone guess what that is? You guessed it, downstate battles. Now, today I will be talking about the downstate mechanic and some techniques that myself and many others use in PvP to optimize our chances of winning these rally wars. But before I do, cue the sick intro. I wanted to share with you my new streaming schedule before I get into those details of the video. So as of December 7th, 2020, I will be streaming Monday, Wednesday, and occasionally Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern. With YouTube and Twitch, it's a bit difficult to try and fit more than 3 days a week while also keeping up with my real life priorities. So now that we got that out of the way, here's the answer. Well, I kind of already told you, but it's rally wars or downstate races, as I like to call them. Let me back up a bit and just say what makes Guild Wars 2 obviously different than most MMOs is the fact that if you die, you aren't completely dead at first. You have this Call of Duty style downstate in which there is a possibility that you can be revived before permanently facing your death. Now, I'm not going to include res utilities that some classes have just for simplicity's sake, but there are 3 ways that you are able to be revived when you are in a downstate. You either have your allies that can revive you, or you can kill an enemy or an enemy player, and that will instantaneously rally you to pretty much half health again. Or if you're in a safe spot, you can revive yourself by pressing the force skill when you're downstate. Now to speak a little bit on the other side of the coin here, if you have successfully downed an enemy, you can use a finisher by interacting with the body to instantly kill them, or you can cleave their downstate health pool down to 0. This mechanic adds a great dynamic for PvP in Guild Wars 2, but I know many, including myself, do struggle when both teams have a downstate player or 2 in a fight. And it always seems that right as you are about to get that kill, the enemy player revives instantly because your teammate just happened to die less than a split second faster. This is very infuriating, I know, trust me. So let's get to the point of the video that everyone is here to watch. Just breaking down a fight where successful rally wars go in your... So during this first example, what I tend to do is I stay away from the downstate player, because I don't want to become downstate myself. A lot of good players will end up using crowd controls and a bunch of AoE damage around the downstate player, and that could cause you to get in downstate. I'll show you a little later an example of that, but after that I put down some stability here. Now not all classes have it, but since I do, I just go ahead and throw that down there to avoid being crowd controlled. I try to go in for the res as I notice that there is very little AoE damage or cleaver on the body. And thankfully that actually keeps our teammate alive through the heart seekers that this thief is giving him. From there I back up a little bit. I was anticipating that there would be some cleave, and from here I go into crowd control. So I use my elite skill here. I was able to get crowd control, and we did get a down on their team, that thief here. So what that really allows us to do is now we can cleave out this thief, and the thief HP pool on downstate is going to be less than the guardian. And as we do, as you see me in that mesmer do on my team, we were able to rally the guardian successfully, and he gets back into the fight. It is in quick time or real time. So very situational, but just to break down the 2 techniques that you would use here is 1, avoid crowd control, step back, and then 2, crowd control your enemies. Now quite the opposite. As I'd mentioned, what you should avoid doing, you should do to the enemy. A lot of the times you'll end up fighting inexperienced players who go in for reses themselves, and this is a good chance for you to be able to exploit that and just get some kills on the enemy players when they're trying to stomp your teammate as well, or if they're trying to res their team. Now this fight is messy here. As you see, I'm playing in real time. I'll go into the play-by-play a little bit after this, but just showing you really the chaos that is Guild Wars 2 PvP, even those techniques still work in these situations. So a little bit of slow motion here. I'm staying away from the Skyhammer buff. I don't want to take as much, I don't want to take any damage if I can avoid it. Thankfully, we are doing a lot of damage here to this druid, so as he is getting focused, I'm just cleaving him out here, putting some auto attacks. And I guess my fault here is that I was doing auto attacks when we had stability to go in for the stomp, because instantly my team isn't really focused, and we allow, as you see, this warrior here to get the res off with this banner. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit. Because of that, everything flipped around, and my teammate, I believe it was a scrapper, ends up going into downstate. So we have the warrior about half HP, but I noticed that at this point my teammate is walking in closer towards me and our downstate friend here. So I try to go ahead and apply stability to all of us so we can go in for this res together. Now stability does come out, we end up getting the res, and at the same time downstating one of their players here. Warrior's on it, and as you can tell there, the Guardian just goes in for his hammer cleave, putting a lot of damage in the vicinity here. I try to do the same using the hammer, so overall it was a good way of assessing the situation, seeing what your team's going to do, and following suit. I only recommend going in for a res if your team and you are committing to it. If you're trying to go in by yourself while your team is cleaving, don't expect to win that at all. It just seems like everyone at that point would be really disorganized. So this technique would be, if just pay attention to what your team's doing and try to adapt to what they're doing versus trying to get them to do what you want them to. Now, as I mentioned earlier about inexperienced players trying to go in for a res, especially when you have two power classes that are able to pump out massive amounts of DPS. Here's a clear-cut example. This Revenant on the enemy team sees his teammate being downstated. He tries to go in for a res, tries to get some cleave out, but instantly dies as well. Now, as a reminder, these are just techniques to help you better your chances at winning the team fight overall, especially when you and the enemy team have downstates on both sides. It's not foolproof. I don't want anyone to believe that I'm saying that this is like just a guarantee of winning it. And by doing so, I want to just showcase what happens, or what I tend to do, when we end up losing a rally war or we have more downstates than the enemy team. So the first thing that you notice here, we have 2 downstates on my team and the enemy team doesn't have any. I try to stand back a little bit because I know that with the comp that the enemy team has, there is a lot of cleaver on the bodies. So I don't want to go in, and unfortunately I wasn't able to see the ranger here who got the finisher off. He did really well noticing that there was no cleave around those players and just went in for the finisher with a stability, I believe. And at this point, we just, the best thing to do is to leave the fight. Leave and rotate to another node. It's helped. It's better than overcommitting to trying to stay in that fight and trying to get some more res, because at that point you're just avoiding a snowball, and that's a good thing for you and your team. So at this point, we're getting to the end of the video, and so I just want to ask you guys to like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and comment below if you found this content helpful at all. The one other thing, I just want to break it down so that way you can see it towards the end. Here are the steps. You see I've written them down so that way you can take a look, screenshot this, and just keep those in mind whenever you are caught in a situation where your team and the enemy team both have a downstate, or if you just have a downstate, what to do, how to focus, and how to get that body up and win more games. So Take care, guys. Hope you guys have a great one, and see you in the next video.